Hey, Assalamu alaikum, you guys. I want to talk to you guys about a really hot topic, right? And one thing that always comes up in the media or anything like that whenever they talk about Muslims, and it's really been bothering me. It always bothers me, but specifically I want to talk about it right now, about extremist Muslims. Now, we, even as Muslims, we get suckered into this where we're like, we're Muslim, but we're not extreme, or we follow Islam, but we're not radical. And then what we attribute radical Islam to, or extreme Islam, which means like practicing Islam the most that you can, is to groups like ISIS or the Taliban. And that is upsetting enough when non-Muslims do it, but when Muslims do it, I'm like, you guys, what is going on? Extreme Islam is something none of us should be afraid of practicing, because extreme Islam is, you know what extreme Islam is? It's extraordinary generosity. It's infinite levels of mercy. It's compassion for your neighbors. If we were practicing extreme Islam, if this ummah was practicing extreme Islam, I don't think that we would have poverty. I really don't. But what has happened is we have allowed these violent, fringe, horrible people to come out and say that we are extreme Islam and this is extremist Islam. No, groups like the Taliban, groups like ISIS do not get to claim Islam in any capacity. Zero capacity. When we look at radical, the word radical, that stems from, I think, the Greek or the Latin root for root. It means from the root. The root of Islam, radical Islam, is compassion. It's our Prophet honoring peace treaties and treaties with people who were from Jewish tribes and Christian tribes. That is radical Islam. The Taliban is not radical Islam. The Taliban is not Islam. They can't claim any in any capacity to be following the sunnah of our Prophet. Our Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was extraordinarily merciful. Extraordinarily merciful. When tribes betrayed him, again and again he showed mercy to them. In fact, he was so merciful to them that some tribes started to consider him to be weak. That's radical Islam. Okay? Radical Islam is our Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Our Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, refusing to eat when he was so hungry that he would tie a belt around his waist and instead chose to give it to people who he viewed as more needy than him. That's radical Islam. That's radical Islam. Radical Islam is not blowing anybody up. It is not brutality. It is not violence. It is not fear. You know, and another thing on this level, this thing that disturbs me so much, and I see it all the time, is how much of the time fear is, from maybe well-meaning people, fear is interwoven into our faith. And I met with one of a really dear sister today, and I was talking to her about something, and she was telling me about how she's a hijabi now, mashallah, but before she was a hijabi, she had this Quran teacher who was like, hey, he was a great guy, whatever, mashallah, but then one day he was like, hey, just wanted to let you know that if you don't wear hijab one day, that's gonna be, then you'll be in the part of hell where you are getting hung by your hair or something like that. What is wrong? Like, no, you guys keep polluting such a beautiful thing when you put all this fear into that. There's not supposed to be compulsion in our religion. The people who've taken Shahada with me, I have never talked to them about hellfire. You know why? Because God forbid, I don't want to take this beautiful religion, this religion that is signifying mercy in my life, healing in my life, personal growth in my life, coming to know my Creator in my life, and merging that with fear. No, that's not, you cannot worship, if you worship something and that worship is based off of fear, that is not a beautiful thing, you know? And it bothers me so much. Yes, we have to fear Allah. Yes, there needs to be respect for Allah. But our faith is built on the mercy of Allah. None of us are waiting to get to Judgment Day and basing our life and our actions off of Allah's anger. You know, I hope not. I read this beautiful thing one time that was talking about how it's a sign of low imam if we are, if our faith and our practice and our imam is just based on either fear of the hereafter, or hope of the hereafter. Like if our imam and the way that we're acting right now is based totally out of that, then that's a sign of low imam. You know, it's a sign of strong imam, worshiping Allah and loving Allah and following Islam because it is good, because it's beautiful right now, because it makes the world better and softer and more beautiful and just and merciful and generous right now. Not because of the life to come, you know? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't consider that or take that into our like thought process when we're thinking about things and stuff like that, but that's not the point of being Muslim. I'll never forget this one day that I had a drive with one of my brothers, and he is very anti-Islam, does not like Islam, still does not like Islam. And he told me, he was like, Emily, what are you certain, like beyond all certainty, that when you die, that Islam was the right choice? Like you have no doubt about it. Like, you know that this is your path to heaven, whatever, that this was the right thing. And I was like, Ian, stuff, I didn't mean to say his name, but I was like, I've never died before. Like, I have no idea what that looks like. But what I do know is that if death, inshallah, is a split second, what I'm certain beyond all certainty for, and what I can answer, is that I want to spend my minutes and my hours and my days and my weeks, as long as I have, so much longer inshallah than that moment of death, practicing Islam. Our faith and our lives should not be based off of fear. When we share Islam, not just with people who are interested in Islam, but a lot of times with our own families. Sometimes I feel so bad for born Muslims, because what happens is their families just kind of regurgitate this like stale kind of practice, and they miss out on so much of the richness and the beauty of Islam that us reverts get because we had to seek it out ourselves. And if you are like that and you're watching this video, let me tell you that following Islam was by no stretch of the imagination, no stretch of the imagination has it been easy. I am in Texas right now in the middle of a heat wave, and I am wearing a black abaya and a hijab, and that's a small fraction, right, of the struggles and things we have to go through, especially as being reverts in America. But I'm here, you know, almost 6 years later, because the beauty that it has unfolded in my life is truly, it's unpalpable compared to what I had before, you know? And I never want to sound like a used car salesperson with faith, but that is what Islam is. That's radical Islam. That's beautiful Islam. That's Islam that can transform lives and societies and things like that. Terrorism and violence is born out of instability. It's born out of trauma. It's born out of, a lot of times, out of illiteracy. It's born out of having a very, unfortunately, a very, very small world, I think, that people have based their lives on. But what it is not, what those things are not, it's not radical Islam. It's not extreme Islam. It's the opposite of Islam. And so often we're willing to call out and say, oh, you know, this, Western society is doing this bad thing to women, or this is this bad thing, and this is leading us astray and setting us aside. And what we forget to do is look into our own communities at these people who are treating Islam as a weapon, and who are terrorizing people. But also, I'm not even speaking about that because I don't even think about that, but I'm talking our own imams, you know, who will say the most ridiculous things sometimes about women, or who will preach this Islam that is full of wrath and fire and fear and all of these other things. Let's talk about the harm that does to this ummah, you know, and to the youth that are growing up in this ummah now. Show them the Islam, you know, that was so beautiful and so all-encompassing that the Sahaba would lay down their lives for it and not even think about it, you know. And it was not born out of violence or anger, but out of a deep, deep longing for justice and for mercy, you know? And so we have got to stop allowing people, and we've got to stop doing this in our communities, to stop saying that, oh, those people are just extremists. They're not extremists. They're not practicing Islam in an extreme way. Like I said before, extreme Islam is extreme generosity. It's extreme compassion. It's extreme mercy. It's extreme community. It's extreme passion for justice. We cannot let these people hijack it, and we need to look at these people, these people who as hijacking this faith. You know, they do significantly more harm than any other society ever could, you know? And so I was just feeling that so heavily today. And then when I met with a sister today, and I don't know if you're watching this, it was such a gift to see you, and it brought my heart so much light. And that's actually why I'm making this video right now, because I'm just feeling so inspired. But I met with another Muslim sister who goes to my university today, and it was like this beautiful like social distance lunch where we were just laughing and sharing about our struggles in faith and our growth in faith, and like it was just so beautiful. But this one thing that she said that just touched my heart so deeply, and I guess this is kind of a segue, but not really, but there's a lot of conversation right now on hijabi influencers who take off their hijab. And I read this really awful article, which was like, they're dark and evil, and they came in and, you know, built these, you know, empires off of hijab, and now are taking it off, and blah, 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 blah. And this is a sign of end times. You know what's a sign of end times? Your sister's struggling, and instead of you supporting her when she is struggling, and I'm not saying you don't have to support her in taking off her hijab, but if someone is taking off their hijab and does not want outward sides of Islam with them, that means something is hurting in their heart. How dare you hurt them more? How dare you demonize them more? Do you think that that works? No, all you're doing is pushing them farther away from Islam. You have done more harm for them than any Britney Spears belly music video could ever do, you know? And it disturbs me so much. These sisters are literally giving us a chunk of their heart and saying something is hurting so deeply right now. You know, something is hurting so deeply right now. And what on our response to that is be like, we're going to light you on fire. You're a terrible example. You're a terrible influencer. You're a terrible, all of these things. They're people. Hijab is so hard. I love it. And the things that it has developed in my character and in my soul. And if I ever have a daughter, it is my dua that she wants to do it more than anything, and that she'll see me wearing hijab, and that'll be something that she wants to emulate. But it is so hard.